Harold will do greater remarks and sort of get out of here. Yeah, I know how that is. Yeah, 1 minute.
Good early afternoon, Rotarians. I'm Daryl Ishmael. I'm a past president from 2005, 2006. I've kind of been on a sabbatical for about a year. I come back for 2 meetings and then asked to preside. So I take it that my check cleared, and sorry that you have to suffer through this. Oh, just for the record, I did not move to Florida, and don't own property there, which is one of my smartest investment decisions of my life. So I hope nobody else, or have only limited damage, no deaths, nobody suffering from this club. I know people are suffering very greatly. All right, let's get this on. We got a lot of announcements to make. Win.
Yes.
Come on up here and do the 4-way test, pledge, whatever else you want to do.
Now, I was raised Southern Baptist. Giving a man like me an open mic with no parameters, that could be a bad idea. Let's say, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Please be seated. So for our moment of inspiration, it occurred to me that I've known our speaker today a long time. I think it's 31 years. And I was reflecting on that, and I just want to give you a little bit of a riddle. What do Samuel Alito, Neil Armstrong, John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen, General Wesley Clark, Bill Clinton, James Gandolfini, Robert Griffith III, Michael Jordan, Nick Saban, Adam Edelen, and Wynn Stevens all have in common? We all went to Boise State. We are all Boise State alum. So, as you may recall, I'm sure some of you in this room are also in that group. You are selected to go to Boise State when you're a junior in high school. And you know, today's youth, I think, get a bad rap oftentimes. And I think that that august list of alumni just goes to show that you can identify a young man or woman when they're 15 or 16 or 17, and you can recognize that they have some talent, they have some desire, they have some dedication, and that you give them an opportunity. They can go on to be musicians, pioneering journalists. Tom Brokaw, also a graduate of Boise State. Great military leaders, Heisman Trophy winners, NBA legends, the NBA legend, the greatest college football coach in America, and a United States president, one of the youngest people ever elected to statewide constitutional office in the Commonwealth, as well as an entrepreneur, and some middle-aged fat guy that likes dad jokes. Thank you.
I don't know if that was inspiring. It makes me kind of feel deficient. Okay. Hey, I want to say hi to all our Zoom listeners today, watchers. I want to make sure that if you're driving a car, do not be watching. Just turn the volume up and don't eat with your mouth full. Rod, come on up and introduce our guest today.
Always an exciting part of Rotary is seeing who can bring as guests, and members worked well today, and we've got a bunch of guests. First is Jeff Dunn, Carl Hooter Combs, Tom Merritt brought him, Kimberly Steele, Bridget Bloom brought her, Terry Shaft, Susie Basham brought, Bill Barton, was brought by Carla Bryant, Monica Mundy by Amanda Ferguson, Jay Ramsey by Jamie Schrader, Brandon Gross, Darby Turner, and Joe Evans. Let's give them all a hand.
Thank you. That is a nice welcome for all you distinguished guests, and we hope you come back and join us and participate. Bug your hosts to make sure that they invite you to all the social events that we're going to discuss, and also make sure they pay. Now, the lottery, Jamie, or no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Jamie because Jamie won the last time, and then he did not come to my gallery and buy any art. Tom Lester, let's see, what are we looking for? The Jack of Hearts. Jack of Hearts, we're gonna draw 2 tickets. $350. $350. And remember, right off, all Rotarians are winners. That's why we're Rotarians. And that's just a preface. You understand that. Hey, all right, I got one with no number. I'll take it. That's me. Oh, that's James. Let's try another one. That's right, 0. No, I am laughing at you. How many do not have numbers in here? All right. You don't have a number. You're look. Hey, James.
Well done.
Just sit down, okay? I'm sorry if I'm disrespectful, really, I swear, not. Okay, last 4 numbers, 4890. Look at your ticket now, 4890. We have a winner. I cannot see because of the sun, but I'm gonna have to believe it. Come on up. Jack of Hearts. Jeff. I don't know. Sure, it's legit. Jack of Hearts, $350. Going once. Come on, anytime. Oh, he's still a winner. Loser. All right, 4894. Check your ticket, 4894, John, come on up. Another winner, no doubt.
I'm not gonna get the L out.
No, no else, no.
Been on one card before.
That's right. Oh, Queen of the, yeah, that's it, you got it. Loser. All right, celebrating birthdays today. We're not singing a song because I don't do that. Birthdays this week, Susan Adams, Mark Holcomb, Narish Shah, Anita Besharat, Wallace Barber, Chris Anderson, Paul Chartier, Susan Basham, R.G. Conley, Lauren Monet, Jim Dundon, Joe Kinney, and today's birthdays, Eric Brooks and Ike Lawrence. Happy birthday. I started laughing because, you know, whatever 9 months ago from this month was really a busy month. Okay, we got a bunch of announcements, and you can check your wheel horse out on this. They're all covered, and I got to tell you, you know, having been on sabbatical and supposed to refresh and get smart, that didn't happen. But Rotary sure has picked up a notch since I was here last. I'll tell you, it's really, really active in all these events. October 16th, we got a recruitment social. That's next Wednesday. So be sure to invite a special potential member to Broke Spoke, which is 5 to 6:30. Broke Spoke is down on 6, I believe, right? Wrong. High and West 6. Okay, good. It'll be a lot of fun. See Wanda Bertram for more information on that. And make sure you bring a member. Okay, Jenny Snur wants to make a little discussion here.
Y'all are always a little bit afraid when I get up in front of this microphone because I bring the energy. And on Thursday night next week, I'm going to be bringing the energy to Cycle U for Spin to Win the fight against polio. We did this last year. Those of you who were there, I think, had a good time and nobody died, which is the important thing because everybody always thinks that if you go to a spin class, somebody is going to pass out. That's never happened in my class. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to lead. I'm going to play some great music. I'm going to encourage you to move your body, to get active. And we're going to raise some money for the Rotary Foundation. All of our donations for this fundraiser are matched 2-to-1 by the Gates Foundation. So if you can be there, I really want you to come. I know we've got a few signups. I'm excited for that. If you can't be there, donate. We've got table tents. We've got places to donate. Ask me questions. I'm here to answer them. I can get you signed up for Cycle U. It's going to be on Midland Avenue, 6:30 p.m. next Thursday, the 17th. And again, I'll be outside after the meeting. So if you have questions or if you're like, want to text me later and be like, can I really do this? The answer is yes. If you think you can, you can. I will see you there.
Thank you, Jenny. And remember, next Thursday, we do not have a regular Rotary meeting. We're all supposed to go to this event with Jenny. Yeah, that's right. I won't be there. I'm scared of dying. We have 6 tickets left for the Keeneland outing. That outing is, coming right up. It's in the wheel horse, but see Susan Adams for those 6 tickets. And, it says in there something like 11 to 6 p.m. You'll be broke by 2 and you can go home. Then Susie Basham is sponsoring and hosting a special dinner or tailgate party at her home. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's on November 2nd. There will be a chili cook-off involved in that. More info to come. There will be gambling. And there'll probably be some drinks. So it's well worth going. Now to introduce our speaker, Bridget Blum.
Daryl, thank you. And Jenny, yes, indeed, you brought the energy, no doubt. So for those of you who are not cyclists, and there are quite a few cyclists in the room, if you're not a cyclist, consider donating to a cyclist who is riding that day or riding sometime this month. So don't stay out, Daryl, just because you're afraid you'll die. You can give from your pocketbook and it will enhance your health, I'm fairly certain. Okay, all right. Okay. So to introduce our speaker today, it's my honor to introduce Adam Edelen, who is well known across Kentucky as a thoughtful leader focused on the future of our state and the strength of our state and of the people in our state. So Adam got a really strong start in his career as Chief of Staff for Governor Paul Patton, went on, as Wynn mentioned, to elected office in his own right. Is now leading an organization that is committed to social impact through solar energy in rural Kentucky especially. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about that work. He has been named an outstanding young Kentuckian, one of the 10 outstanding young Americans by the United States Junior Chamber of Commerce. More recently, he's been honored by the Aspen Institute and the German Marshall Fund. Adam is a graduate of the University of Kentucky, a student of history, a proud father of twin sons, an avid sportsman and fan of Kentucky Wildcats and Atlanta Braves. He's going to share with us about his entrepreneurial activity named Edelen Renewables, which hopefully everyone saw today on the top of the building next door to us as you drove into the parking lot. So without further ado, Adam, the podium is yours.
Well, it is terrific to be with all of you. A couple of observations. I speak at a lot of Rotary clubs, still do a lot of speaking. I guess old habits die hard. Not all of them as convenient as this location. So for the 12-second, 50-yard commute, I am deeply appreciative and honored to be with you. Secondly, I did have a long enough career in politics to have learned the cardinal rule of speaking to a Rotary club. Thou shalt not speak past 1 o'clock. And I actually learned that one, Daryl, before I ever got elected to anything. I accompanied one great Lexingtonian named Brad Cowgill to the Lexington Rotary Club when we were out at Phasing-Tipton. And he was talking about the New Century Lexington livability study that I had done as a young executive at the chamber. And he wrapped up his remarks at 1:23 p.m. He got a robust standing ovation from me and the wait staff. So not a mistake that I'm going to make. It really is an honor to be here, to see so many longtime friends, to celebrate what makes Lexington so unique, which is this commitment of people who just love this place. And the Rotary Club is a powerful demonstration of that commitment to community and to each other, and I'm really honored to be here. So if you take one thing from my remarks today, I really hope it's this, that we are living through one of the great economic, social, cultural, and technological transitions of all time. The green energy revolution is going to be and is the greatest wealth creating event since the advent of the internet. That for the next 50 years at least, the primary economic driver in the United States and globally is going to be literally the electrification of everything. This is not a period of slow movement. We don't live in an era anymore where the big eat the small. We live in a time and a place where the fast eat the slow. And the question is, how do we seize the opportunities that are associated with this profound technological shift? Let me offer you a couple of data points. This is a movement largely insulated from politics, because at the end of the day, when a market force becomes gravitational, it becomes irresistible, and we have reached that tipping point. When you turn on the television at night and you watch the news or a Super Bowl commercial or pay attention to streaming, you will see the largest companies in the planet talking about their sustainability goals. And it's not just big data anymore. It's not just Facebook and Google and Amazon and Apple. It's not just Ford and Toyota and Anheuser-Busch. It's Walmart. The entirety of the Fortune 500 have sustainability commitments now, and they're shareholder driven. Even the fossil fuel companies. I'll point out to you that one of the largest developers in the Southeast is a Nashville-based firm that is a platform for a company called Shell, literally the biggest polluter on the planet. The entirety of the Fortune 500 is embracing renewable energy for two reasons. One, it's now the most cost-effective new form of power on the planet. The days of coal being competitive as a power source, ladies and gentlemen, are sadly over. We now have a renewable resource that's more competitive with gas, which is extraordinary. The other reason is a even more business-focused model. And that is that it's the boomers, which for a long time were the largest generation in American history by a lot, have been dramatically dwarfed by Gen Z and the millennials. This generation is by far the largest in American history. And why you're seeing the Fortune 500 change their strategy for how they power their operations isn't just because it's cheaper. It's because they want to be relevant to a generation that is now dominating the marketplace. Put another way, as long as most of us have been alive, the Toyota Camry has been the #1 selling sedan on the planet for a very long time. In a couple of years, Toyota plans to phase out the internal combustion engine on the Camry. And you can either have one that's a hybrid or one that's a straight up EV. This is happening because they're choosing relevance. They spent tens of millions of dollars of market research. This isn't going back. And so one of the beauties of being out of politics now, folks, is I'm in business, and in politics, you got to be persuadable. In business, you got to be right. I'm right about this. Took you a minute, but you got there. It is an extraordinary time. And so when we talk about seeing all of the companies that I just mentioned and every single one of their suppliers talking about a path to sustainability, the way they accomplish that is to buy renewable energy that's produced at projects like the ones I've developed. And so as bad as my timing felt like what was in politics, ladies and gentlemen, now that I'm a renewable energy developer, I am the hound that caught the truck. I'm being drug all over the place. But what my company is founded on is a belief that we can leverage the new energy transition to create a new American dream, that we can bring the promise of renewable energy to the forgotten places of America. And in doing that, we can employ a social impact approach that leaves communities better off as a result for our having been there. And the best example of this is the Martin County Solar Project. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on a 2,000-acre mine site, the old Martiki Mine in Martin County, Kentucky, a place known as the rural equivalent of Flint, Michigan, a place where in certain elements of that community, they still gather rainwater in cisterns to bathe children. We've made the largest private capital investment in the history of that county. A $231 million private capital investment on a 2,000-acre mine site, producing 200 megawatts of green energy, by far the largest solar project in Kentucky. We just completed construction of the first phase. The power was sold to Toyota. And all of this occurred 4 miles from where Lyndon Johnson launched the war on poverty. Y'all, it sounds good because it is good. And it is an example of how we can bring disparate interests together to do big, important things still. You know, as you can imagine, the coal company executives that I've partnered with on these projects, we vote for different kinds of people. But when it comes down to it, we should all be members of the Green Party. Let's do what's good for the collective bottom line. But put another way, you don't have to agree with somebody on everything to work together on something. And what we pulled off in Martin County is extraordinary. We worked for 3 years to create the economic and workforce development infrastructure to maximize local employment. I had so many people say, Adam, when you have your first jobs fair, you know, plan for 50, because these folks in these communities are not going to embrace this opportunity because it feels culturally foreign to them. We planned for 50 and 500 showed up. And I would say the average demographic was a young guy in his mid-30s who loves his community so much, whose family is still there, who gets up late, who leaves his community late on Sunday, drives 8 hours to the Marcellus Shale of Pennsylvania, works all week, and then comes home late on a Friday night. People who just want to stay home. And so we've created that hiring preference, and we've reimagined solar installation as the first or second rung on the ladder of economic opportunity. The people who have worked on that site have been afforded an opportunity to learn a portable and stackable skills credential at my expense rather than their own. And we were able to enlist the support of the largest automotive manufacturer on the planet who said, we'll do this and we'll make it a Super Bowl commercial. And so what we need is more creativity, not just in government, but we need more creativity and innovation in our business community, amongst our civic leadership, because at the end of the day, folks, we have to make what is a fundamental decision. Whether you're a Rotarian, whether you run a corporation, whether you run a government, whether you run a church, here's the central question. Do we adapt to the opportunities of this moment, or are we run over by them? Because it really is that simple. Catalytic moments in history that occur like this don't happen very often. And if you make the decision to be part of the future rather than resist it, you can catapult your people deep into the future. If you don't, it is a lost opportunity in which we fall another century behind. And I just want to say this as a Kentuckian. We are sitting in a city that was called the Athens of the West. We produced Henry Clay. We produced outstanding political, progressive, small p progressive leadership. And then came the Civil War. And we preserved our neutrality to the end, and then we sided with the losers. It's a fact. And we had a lost century as a result. It wasn't until the 1960s in Kentucky that we decided to be proactive on civil rights, that we decided to build Bill KET, that we got in and started talking about how do we build the most robust state park system in the country. Isn't it time that we begin to follow up and actually make investments in education, even rural education? But as we've done well since the 60s, a fallen century is hard to make up for. And I'm here to make the case to you that we are living in that moment again. I think it's time we get with the program, because it's a lot of other places are doing it. You know, I learned in early January of 22 that there's a reason that lawyers advertise, and it's because it worked. Our little company, and yours truly, got profiled on the front page of the Sunday New York Times in January of 22, and it made the phone ring in our company. So we began to think strategically about how we expand our social impact mission to other parts of the country. How do we expand our reach? How do we use the green energy revolution to expand and diversify the winner's circle? And I'm pleased to let you know that we're now in 16 states. I've got 20 people in my operation. I'm really thrilled. Sometimes when things start to go your way a little, Daryl, you do stuff just because you can. I put an office on Main Street in Hazard, Kentucky, with a sign that lights up as bright as it can on as big of a sign as I could make it, because I want people to understand that opportunity ought not just be preserved for the few. When you think about the commitment we owe to our coal communities, these are the folks who literally powered the industrial development of America. These are the people who provided the men and material to win not one, but 2 world wars. And the streets of Appalachia ought to be paved in gold, but it didn't occur to us in government that we ought to start taxing the mineral that came out of the ground until about 50 years ago. And so what we've got is poverty, and what we have is a system where we failed to diversify the economy. And that is a cardinal sin, much like speaking past 1 o'clock, which I'm not going to do. We failed to diversify the economy. And as a result, when the coal economy collapsed, we left these communities demonstrably worse off. And I just don't mean employment. I just don't mean workforce participation. I mean the jobs disappeared, and then we permitted the opioids to be pumped in. And then when we finally got a hold of the opioids, we allowed the Jalisco cartel to bring in black tar heroin. In Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia is one of only 3 places in the United States where life expectancy is literally dropping. In the 24th year of the 21st century, less than 2 hours from where we sit and dine right now, life expectancy is dropping. And that wasn't just a policy failure, it was a policy choice. We told folks that if you vote for somebody else, the jobs will come back, and it just didn't turn out that way. The fact of the matter is that more coal burning plants closed under 4 years of Donald Trump than 8 years of Barack Obama, and neither one of them could do anything about it. It is a market force. So we've got to think about how we diversify our economy. Is renewable energy a silver bullet? Absolutely not. But it is a critical part of that solution. And to bring this home, about 1.5 years ago, I found myself behind a similar lectern at the Marriott in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, giving a speech much similar to this as the keynote speaker at a green energy conference in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to diversify their economy. They're not doing it because they've fallen out of love with oil and petroleum. They're doing it because they know that a path to prosperity requires a diversified approach. If the Saudis are smart enough to pull that off, we should be doing the exact same thing here, particularly recognizing that the electrification of everything is going to be a primary driver. Ladies and gentlemen, these devices have turned us all into data collectors. And when you do a Google search, it uses 1 watt of power. When you use an AI-generated search that we all will be using soon, and by soon, I don't mean next year, I mean 3 or 4 months from now, that uses 100 times that amount of power. Think about the last time you took a picture of your kids or your grandkids or your friends. Pictures don't get deleted, they go to the cloud. And ladies and gentlemen, the cloud is not an ethereal place in the sky. The cloud is a network of what will be tens of thousands of warehouses, 4 stories high, populated from floor to ceiling by servers in an environment that's air conditioned to 55 degrees, 24/7, 365 days a year. The notion that we're going to use less power is absolutely insane. And some of you may be more bullish on electric vehicles, some of you may not. But the average American travels less than 40 miles a day. And for that person right now, with the credits in place, they can save thousands of dollars a year. But I'm not trying to sell this to you. I hope you believe what I'm saying. Those of you that really are smart are going to call your retirement and wealth managers as you leave and say, I need to make sure I'm in the green energy sector in my portfolio. But the kids, The 35 to 20-year-olds behind us, for which there are 2 of them for every one of us, they have already bought in. And the biggest companies in the world are altering their business strategies based on that reality. And so whatever your politics are, I don't care. Whatever you think about what I'm saying, I hope you enjoyed it. But we've got to begin to think more strategically about the future. And we've got to understand that this is an immovable, undeniable, gravitational force. And it's one that we've got to embrace. And that's an argument now that I'm making as we're partnered across 16 states in a variety of different places. We're working with tribal communities in the American West. We sat down with the Mescalero tribe and I said, your folks were literally the victims of the Industrial Revolution. You were utterly bypassed by the digital revolution because you lacked connectivity, but I can put you smack dab in the middle of the green energy revolution. They said, where do we sign up? We're going to have an aggressive strategy for scaling that out and totally bringing the opportunities of the 21st century economy to Indian reservations and tribal communities in Pueblo all over this country. An initiative I'm super excited about in the deeper South, there is a geographic area that runs from Virginia straight through the deep South, right through the middle of it. These are majority minority rural communities. It's called the Black Belt. In the state of Georgia, the average white farmer nets $70,000 a year. The average black farmer nets $8,000 a year on a farm that's just half the size. And so what we can do by partnering with these farmers and these communities is right historic wrongs. You know, you don't end up with those kind of disparities just on accident. The fact of the matter is in the Deep South for a long time, African Americans couldn't own land. And then when they could, they became sharecroppers. And then when they could own it themselves, it was marginal at best. Completely shut out of the United States Department of Agriculture programs until the 2000s because it remained segregated. Couldn't get help at the Department and Schools of Agriculture at your land grant universities because they were segregated too. And that's what gives you these metrics. But I can partner with a farm owner in the majority minority community of the Black Belt and pay him $1,000 an acre per year for 40 years, making them bankable millionaires overnight, which means we have changed the trajectory of that family. We've utilized the green energy revolution to right historic wrongs, to expand the winner circle, to provide new folks diversity. And this is why I'm so passionate about the work that we're doing, is because we recognize this seminal and unique moment in our lifespan, in our time in history. And honestly, despite the fact that we have got the first expansion war in Europe since the 30s and 40s, that our politics seem hopelessly divided, that we are dealing in real time with the impacts of climate change, I still think this is the greatest time in human history to have ever lived. To see the confluence of all these things that I'm talking about, to see the largest companies in the world say, yes, we'll partner with you to bring opportunity to African-American communities in the rural South. Yes, that we'll use our balance sheet and our appetite for green energy to help tribal communities. And yes, that we'll use all of the throw weight we've got as major corporations to pay what is a uniquely American debt to our coal communities. See, we have these moments once every couple lifetimes. What we need to do is be far more strategic about how we expand that winner circle, how we leverage this unique moment, because if we seize it, if we make the most of it, we can leave this community, this commonwealth, and this country better off. And we can do it not through a government program, though the Inflation Reduction Act was hugely helpful, folks. It took most of my projects qualify for a 40% investment tax credit. You don't have to be a math major to know that almost everything pencils at 40%. But it's nice to see that renewables now have incentives in place where they can compete on a level playing field with oil and gas, who have enjoyed depletion allowances in the tax code for over a century. This is an extraordinary moment. And it's one we're committed to making the most of. And I hope from what you'll take from this is not that I believe he's right, but that he might be right. Because if I am, and pro tip, I am, we can bring the same benefits that are right now being financed by, listen, I was in politics for a long time. If you're in politics for a long time, you develop the soul of a telemarketer, because people half your age put you in a room for hours where we call people like you and beg for money. This is the easiest money I have ever raised in my entire life, because if you have a blue chip off-taker like we have with Toyota or Rivian or our last group of power that we just sold to AEP, you've got an investment vehicle that offers treasury level risk and market rate returns. And that is an extraordinary place to be. So I've really enjoyed this opportunity. I wanted to make sure that we had about 10 minutes. If you have any questions, I'll answer them just as directly as I can. But I want to just leave you with this one more time. The primary economic driver here and globally for at least the next 50 years is going to be the electrification of everything. And we can choose to benefit from this market shift, or we can choose to get run over it. I choose prosperity. Thank you very much. Hydrogen is going to be he asked why not hydrogen power? Hydrogen power will be part of the solution. Where you're going to see hydrogen used most prominently is in large vehicle power and transmission. And so, we were a little company until Toyota decided we shouldn't be a little company. One thing I would pay attention to at the Port of Long Beach, which is their primary port of entry, they have built what is one of the largest hydrogen creating stations in the world. And then they built hydrogen terminals in places like Colorado and I think it's Missouri, in order to be able to get transport material to Georgetown from the West Coast. So I think, if I'm predicting 20 years down the line, I think hydrogen could very easily be a primary fuel, will be a primary fuel for long haul truckers and other heavy transportation. Yes, ma'am.
You said Hills and Tennessee driving the market for electricity.
Yeah, they're driving it for everything.
Perception? Is it that generation's perception that electricity is the way to go? Or is it a reality that electricity is the way to go?
Well, there's no doubt it's the way to go, unless you nobody wants to pay more for something that's inferior. And so what's happened with the young people is that this was the first generation raised under reduce, reuse, recycle in the classroom. And they came out environmentalist folks. And it's not partisan either. I've seen polling that shows young Republicans believe in climate change almost as much as young Democrats do. And so as business leaders, you got to make a decision. Do you try to resist that force, or do you try to be relevant to them? And that's why the entirety of the market has chosen to be relevant to them. Yes, ma'am. Well, they'll get recycled. Yes. Yeah. Oh, it was a great question. She said, what about the batteries and the electric vehicles? They get recycled. And one remark I should have stressed, and I can hang around after if anybody wants to have a dialogue, but the people who get made the biggest fools of as a class are people who bet against American innovation. Let that hang for a minute. Loud. Yeah. So when I got, it took me 7 years to become an overnight success. And when I got into this business 7 years ago, we were working with a 300 watt panel. Now it's being produced as 650 watt panels. And they increase in efficiency by about double digits every year. And so that is to say, in the future, we'll need less land than we need now to generate these huge projects. But the lifespan on them is 35 to 40 years, which is what they're insured to. And yep. Ma'am? Yep, great question. So she asked, do we do the smaller residential and commercial work? We don't, but we have some terrific firms here that do. Synergy Home Solutions is a great outfit. They're advertising now. Solar Energy Solutions, which is a company based here, is doing like big warehouse projects all over the country. And really, you've got some impressive options here if you're looking to do this on your house. Jamie? So nuclear should very much be part of the solution. And I want to point out to you, folks, it's going to be an all of the above approach to energy production. The problem with nuclear is it's impossible to get permitted because nobody wants to live next to it, right? That's just the political reality. And so what I would watch if I were interested in the energy space is that Bill Gates is leading an investment into what's called community solar or community scale nuclear. And this is a reactor that is not the size of this building. It's a reactor that's about the size of your water heater. And the idea is that we ought to be using the same equipment to power communities that we're using to power our aircraft carriers and submarines and other large military operation. If those guys pull that off, it is a game changer. Sir. Thank you.
My comment somewhat of a I believe they were thought the big choke point that we have later now. Somebody who prevents not whether it's change, not whether it's transition, but prevent somebody who prevents me to say know what they're doing.
That's right. Well, listen, it took 7 years to pull off, and I have to tell you, it took years off of my life. That Martin County project lived and died 1,000 deaths. And I mean, we had a pandemic to deal with, and just when we got through the pandemic, I thought, well, surely to goodness, now we can get this done. And then the global supply chain melted down. And what I learned honestly from the governor's race is that people don't see a vision until they see it real. And that's why pulling off the Martin County project and seeing it replicated next year at Bright Night in Perry County, and then at Starfire the year after that. And those three projects together representing $1 billion in private capital investment, where the biggest taxpayers in Martin, Breathitt, Perry, and Knott counties will all be solar arrays. Think about that. Yep. Oh, this is the Martin County Solar Project, folks. So we've got 1 million acres of reclaimed and unreclaimed surface mine sites in central Appalachia. And this is what I think we should do with all of them. Bridget?
Right, I won't be surprised at this question. What do you need from education?
Oh, Lord.
Economy?
So we need to do a better job of being nimble and recognizing not just what the economic opportunities are now, but what they're going to be. And Kentucky is blessed to be the 3rd largest automotive manufacturer in the United States. That's a big deal, y'all. But we're not doing enough thinking about what automotive industry Kentucky 2.0 looks like. Put another way, there are hundreds of individually milled parts that go into the construction of an internal combustion engine. In a EV, there are about 17. And so when you see these big announcements, y'all, about new and expanding operations at our truck plants, at our car plants in Kentucky, you'll see that they lead with the amount of private capital investment, because these numbers are insane. And they lead a little less with the number of people who are going to be employed, because I'll let you in on a secret, it's going to be fewer. And so figuring out how we diversify the economy, creating a workforce ready system that not just is relevant to the immediate moment, Bridget, but understands the emerging moment that's coming. And you don't have to be Nostradamus to have figured all this out. You just got to be curious. That's it.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes,
Thank
sir.
A lithograph by our own member, Bill Strauss.
Oh, Bill.
Yeah, I know you know him.
He charged me a lot for probably the same
That's right.
thing.
Hey, thank you to all Rotarians. Glad you're here. Please live the 4-way test. No meeting next week. We're adjourned.
Thank you for today.